a critical piece of information. In the goal setting process, what we are suggesting that you think about doing is estimate what you think your membership is going to be at the beginning of your year as president. And in this case, let's say that the president says, well, I think we can get to 33. And then she says, well, by the end of the year, I think I can grow that to 35, which represents a net growth of 2. But here's the key to this calculation. You'll see this number here. In this club, their average annual attrition rate is 6 people, which means that in order to have a net growth of 2, they have to bring in 8. So we want people to start thinking about the reality of the Rotary world and what happens as things evolve and clubs change. What do we usually see? For the most part, this is not, it's not absolutely true across each district, but generally true. Roughly 10% of clubs have what we call a growth culture. They have a high attraction rate and a low attrition rate. Unfortunately, we have around 25% that are in the danger zone with a high attrition rate and a low attraction rate. And then we have a vast number in between in what we call steady membership. And they have steady membership, but there are different things going on. It could be steady because, as you'll see over here, their attraction and attrition rates are low. It could be steady because they have high turnover with a high attraction rate and a high attrition rate, or they could be somewhere in between the two of them with a fragile balance. So how does District 7070 and your club compare? You'll see here, Rotary International's attrition rate is 14% and attraction rate of 13%. Among the districts in our zone, the range is from 11 to 20% of attrition, 10 to 15% attraction, and in your district, 14.7% attrition, which is a quite positive, reasonable number, but a lower attraction rate of 12.5%. Any of those who you have been told, those of you who have been told that Rotary doesn't have a problem getting people in, it has a problem keeping them, you'll see that these numbers tell you that that's actually not true. We don't bring enough people in. The reasons for that are varied, but that's the reality. So if we want clubs to be successful, for you to be successful, we'd like you to be thinking in terms of getting your attrition to less than 15%, ideally around 10, and an attraction rate that's 5% or so better than that. And then we have to think about, well, what is it that I, as a president, need to be focused on? Is it a high attrition? That requires a different set of solutions. Is it low attraction? Is it both of them? Or is it neither? It's because we're doing well and we need to build on our growth culture and success strategies. And again, to be thinking about your own unique situation, if your situation is you have a low attraction rate, that begs the question, is that because of our club culture? Is there something in the opportunity we provide that people don't want? Are we active enough in the community? Visible enough in the community? Is our issue high attrition? Are people leaving because they don't like the environment in our club? Are people not being well engaged or properly, part of doing service in the community? Or possibly is it some combination of the both? And so the point is, as we think things through, we need to be thinking about and looking at what really is going on, diving into the numbers and beneath the numbers to reach a better understanding of ourselves and our own unique situations. So now I will happily turn it over to Sue, who will talk about our study.
Okay, thank you, Doug. And I just before I begin, I just want to echo, and I know some some of the sentiments that have been made to the President-elect. Thank you so much for taking on this role. It's an exciting role. You have the ability to and the opportunity now to really impact Rotary in your club and Rotary in your area, but certainly to you all. It is a commitment, and we certainly appreciate it, and our communities are going to be stronger for it. So starting off, thank you so much. It's an exciting year. It's a big year. There's a lot ahead, but you are going to make a huge difference in your clubs and in your communities. Doug mentioned the analytics, and I know Virginia can certainly talk a lot about this. But a survey was done looking at clubs that grew during the pandemic, and we certainly know there was a lot of challenges, but a lot of those challenges also turned into opportunities. And we'll hear from some of the club presidents that were very successful in growing their clubs. And we'll also hear from a president in 70-70. You had some clubs that grew really substantially during the last Rotary year as well. And so, but for the purpose of the survey, looked at clubs that had a net growth of 5 or more. And that was, again, for the purpose of the survey. I mean, a small club that grows by 2 or 3, same percentage, but this was just the number that was chosen. And so questions were sent to the 2021 presidents of those clubs, and the open-ended questions such as, what do you think the 3 main reasons are that your club grew this year? So that kind of question, and there was a 61% response rate. And that tells me that people wanted to share good news. I mean, that's a high yield rate. In any survey, we know that. So I think it really shows people wanted to share good news and celebrate. And I think we have to do that as Rotarians, and we have to celebrate our successes. And out of that survey came 5 basic attributes of successful clubs. And as Doug said earlier, not a surprise. The number 1, strong leadership. The second one, clear membership goals and a growth plan. And we talk about goals, and often we hear things like failing to plan is planning to fail. Growth or goals and goal setting make a difference. Active in the local community, and we know that, the events and the service projects. But it's good to be active, but we also have to be seen being active. That's strong visibility. And lastly, active, intentional member engagement. And we continue to hear the word active, intentional, purposeful member engagement. But the number 1 was leadership. That seemed to be the key attribute. And clubs may or may not, depending if you're a club that had a lot of a high attraction rate, you may not have had to have a focus on public image. You may have focused on other areas. But leadership, that consistent leadership, good communication, collaborative leadership seemed to be the number 1 key. And this data was looked at by a number of different committees, and then it was all compiled. And all of the committees came up with the same thing, leadership. And leadership is certainly, you are going to be key to leadership in your club next year. There's no question about that. But it is also about the leadership team and working together and how the team works together. We also look at it is over time. So all of the success doesn't happen in 1 year. We know that it's over time and strong leadership over time that is going to make the difference. And it's definitely a we idea and not a me idea. So it's looking at working together, setting those goals with the club, and having that buy-in at the grassroots level. And now we're going to hear from some presidents, and you will recognize one of them very well from your district about how they brought leadership to their club during a very difficult pandemic year.
Leadership involves sort of having a vision or embracing a vision and moving your club and the members towards pursuing that vision in a way that makes them feel important and a part of the process.
The leadership is a little bit different, I think, in Rotary than it may be somewhere else. It certainly has to be distributed.
Leadership is all about getting people to say, yes, I will own some specific result, so that they are then leading a particular effort.
It's not my club, it's not the president's club, it's the members' club.
Because of COVID, we have to reimagine everything that we do.
How do you bring people from where they are to a new place? That's the kind of leadership I think we have to have in Rotary.
It's really important in order to do that, you be able to listen and to be fluid with what's going on with other people in your community.
And we're here for the community. So just constantly thinking about that. To me, that's what leadership meant to me.
And I'm sure you all recognize, or many of you would recognize, Joan Littleford from the Whitby Sunrisers Club. And that club has had very successful growth over the last few years. And I think has demonstrated very strong leadership and the continuity of leadership over the past few years. And the second one is having a membership plan, having a membership growth plan, starting with a goal and then putting a plan in place. And of the presidents that were surveyed, 88% stated that membership growth was a top priority, not just by them, but by the whole club. 83% uploaded their membership goals into Rotary Club Central. And we talk about that, but sometimes when something is on paper or we have committed it, there's almost another level of accountability. It's not something we forget about, but when we go through goals, we think, oh yes, these are some of the goals that we want to achieve. And one of them is membership. And then a club membership committee. And I think, again, this is very situational. It depends on the size of the club and the demographic of the club, but having either a specific core of people or the whole club that is working as a membership committee with a very specific plan to grow membership in their club. And active attraction was a key strategy. And for many of these clubs, they talked about things like, bring a friend, ensure that you have events or projects or opportunities that people want to come, non-Rotarian opportunities that are going to attract people into the club. Looking at really good follow-up, like once people are in the club, what do we do? Do we ensure that there's follow-up? Do we ensure that they get the mentoring they need? If somebody has approached us, do we follow up with them before they join the club and follow up and say, do you wish to join? Would you like to come to another meeting? Do you wish to have a conversation? And then also looking at other opportunities. It may be a satellite club. It may be looking at a different meeting time. How can we work together to make the club irresistible? And I think we've heard Louisa Horn speak sometimes, and I know we did at one of the Grow Rotary sessions, making our clubs irresistible. And here's some thoughts from some of the 2021 presidents.
We made membership a priority during the pandemic year because it happened to coincide with our centennial.
Membership was a priority to me before I knew we were going to be having a pandemic throughout our entire year.
And 3 years ago, we established 4 strategic goals for that centennial, and one of them was to grow membership in our club.
Equity and diversity was really an important aspect of that.
We wanted to diversify our club. Our club was aging like many clubs. We wanted to inject some youth into our membership and attract new younger members into our club.
One of our cultural goals for the year was to be open to every person, opportunity, and idea.
I wanted to make sure that we created a club that people would want to join, people would want to remain in.
We also wanted to improve the gender balance in our club.
Identify very specific people and put them in very specific roles on the membership committee.
I asked members, can you please think about people in your community that you know, that you think might be good Rotarians, and don't just think about it, ask them to join.
As long as you're making plans to make sure that your membership growth happens, I think it will.
And the third attribute that certainly came out loudly and clearly was being active in the local community. Being involved in those events or those service projects or those programs that are highly visible, that are ongoing. It's not just necessarily a one-shot deal, but you're seen. And 67% of the successful clubs held events that actually targeted new member attraction. And I know in listening to some of the past presidents and in talking to them, they use COVID as an opportunity. And so often we see challenges and we see problems, but if we see it as an opportunity, and it was that opportunity to connect. And I know in talking with different clubs in 7070, I know that like the vaccine, for instance, the COVID vaccines, A number of clubs were involved in those and volunteered and had signs, you know, that Rotary was working at the vaccine clinic, or I got my, I'm a Rotarian so-and-so got my vaccine. So I think those were the opportunities, working at food banks, that kind of thing, to be seen in the community, be seen as contributing to the solution and to making things better for families in the community. Another is partnering. And you'll hear Paul Elsley talk about partnering with other organizations. And, you know, organizations that might come for support or might need more people power in helping with something. So those opportunities to partner, and often that can translate into opportunities for membership. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we heard Joan talk about it, but that's a huge part of who we are as an organization. Your district is really ahead of the game on that. You were one of the first districts in our zone to have a strong DEI committee and mandate in place, and starting to put some resources and some support in place for clubs to become more diverse and to embrace DEI. So I think that's another thing that's really important, especially as we are seen in the community, and if we want our clubs to reflect our community. And then the number of, you'll hear people talking about events or opportunities for people who are not yet Rotarians. What is the event? What is the service project? What is the opportunity? We need a variety. We need to meet different people's passions and interests and what they can bring to the table. But what about those non-Rotarians? And what are we doing to invite them to help at a project that all of a sudden might twig their interest or their passion and turn them into somebody who wants to be part of Rotary? So here's what some of the presidents had to say.
The pandemic provided a wonderful opportunity for us to be able to connect with people all over the world.
One of the keys to our success in terms of membership, and all of these things are interrelated, was our ability to partner with some of the other community organizations and not-for-profits.
We took the lead on managing the volunteer sign-up sheets for the mass vaccination clinics that were happening in our community.
We started an Afghan refugee resettlement program, and we actually got our first family last night.
We continued some things that we had been doing. We'd been serving at a local a soup kitchen, Bristol Lodge, for going on 30 years, and we didn't stop that.
We invited guests to our events, both our fundraisers as well as our hands-on community service projects, of which there were many. I think it was 22 events that we had in spite of the pandemic.
I would say on average, we had at least 5 partners, including Rotary, on each of the projects that we embraced.
We have about 50 volunteers, and 2 of them just recently became Rotary members.
The group that we work with in Haiti, we were able to Zoom with them. So in a different way, we were able to connect with the service projects that we were already engaged in other countries.
During the pandemic, we found different ways to deliver food and support that community in need.
That more awareness in the community of Rotary stepping up and being involved in what's going on with our club was great.
Yeah, and of course, we need to be seen. It's good to be doing, we have to be doing, but we also have to be seen. And I know for years, Rotary was very humble, and we didn't blow our own horn, so to speak, and we didn't, talk a lot about what we did. We just did it because it was the right thing to do, and it made communities better. But I think we realize more and more that the volunteer hour and the volunteer dollar are highly sought after, and we have to let our communities know what we are doing. We have to share that, because by sharing, that certainly builds the interest. And I think the other thing is the Rotary swag. Make sure that we have on our pins, make sure that, when we're out working, picking up garbage or working at a food kitchen or whatever we happen to be doing, have on the Rotary vest, the Rotary jacket, so that people know Rotary in action. Rotary is there. And of course, social media, and it changes so quickly. Facebook is now practically passé for many of our younger members. So it's looking at social media and what is the fastest, best way to share what we are doing. And also, small clubs, and I mean, there's a lot of small clubs I know in your district, ours is the same. And it's harder when we look at public image campaigns. I mean, it can be rather expensive, and also the people power, again, the clubs in an area working together, putting together a little bit of funding and trying to either go to the local media and get our message out as to what Rotary is doing.
We're entirely willing to tell people what we've been doing and invite them to join us and invite them again. So everything we do is open to anybody who wants to get involved.
We wanted to get an article and a picture for everything we did. And there were people very, very impressed with what we did, reaching out to us, interested in joining, or at least inquiring about membership. I think as a result of that too.
As we were doing these projects, we were making lots of posts every week.
We did a PSA with a local radio TV station. That had a big impact. We put posters up around town, primarily letting people know about the program, not so much to raise money.
We were using ambassadors in the community. Where we live, we have a world famous theater, and so we have lots of relatively famous people that live in Stratford. We got them to sort of become our mask ambassadors.
So our members would post and repost, and we'd get remarks and comments and likes.
We've also added some new members who have particular social media expertise and design expertise, and they've really elevated our social media game, if you will, and we're not bashful.
So I think it was important that we were active in social media for the programs, not necessarily just for Duxbury Rotary.
We're just doing what Rotary has suggested we do, and what most organizations are encouraged to do, which is to tell the stories that you have through all the channels that you can muster, as often as you want, through as many different voices as you have.
And I really like the way he summed that up. Tell the stories that you have in as many voices as you can, through as many channels as you can muster. And I think that is something that we have done a very humble job of for so many years. And I think we have to let the world know what we're doing. And the last of the key elements that were identified is that active, intentional member engagement. So for clubs that have high attrition, I mean, this would certainly be an area to look at. And some of the points they're looking at meetings and mixing really good speakers with a lot of fun, because we all want to have fun. We all, if we're giving of our time, we're giving of our energy, and we're giving of our money. So we know we want to make a difference, but we also want to have a good time, and fellowship is such a key part of Rotary. So in ensuring that fun and the inclusivity, I talked about that a minute ago, but making our clubs irresistible, back to what Louisa Horn says, making people want to come, making it so great that people want to be a part of it, that they will get up at 7 o'clock in the morning to go to a meeting, or they will go at the end of a long work day out to dinner with a group of people, or to meet up and have a Rotary meeting. And we have to be intentional, and we have to be actively engaging about it, and to make those meetings and to make those opportunities as attractive as possible.
And nobody wants to come to a dull party. So the other thing I wanted to do was make sure that we focused on fun.
Every month, I had a Zoom call, which later became an in-person meeting once a month with those new members.
My goal for speakers was to have those who spoke to be entertaining, educational, and informative.
They've sort of formed their own little fellowship amongst themselves. They're now friends, and they go out and have coffees together. And when we do finally get to meet in person, they're going to already know, 12 other people in the club.
We made sure they got engaged in their area of interest. And so we made that a priority. And I'd say that was our primary strategy.
I mean, we were very locked down in our community, but we could go for walks. So what we did was to use the focus of the environment to get together in small groups.
We're in the midst of completing our second tree sale, and it was fantastic last year because it was an opportunity to get outside together with each other meet more members of our own community, and do something good.
We're going to walk along the lakeshore. We bought garbage bags and gloves and pickers, and we went out. We wore Rotary gear. We took photographs and we put it on social media.
Invite everybody to get involved with anything that's interesting to them, as much or as little as they want. And when they do, welcome them warmly. And if they don't, invite them again to something else, because the way to get involved with Rotary is to get involved with Rotary.
And I love that. The way to get involved with Rotary is to get involved with Rotary. So I think basically the 5 attributes, and I think we've talked about them. Leadership. Doug, is this, what is this one? Is this the?
Yeah, it's the other video.
Okay, yeah, that's so this is the video that puts it all together. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so we've talked about leadership, we've talked about the importance of membership, we've talked about the member experience, the engagement, public image, goals, service. And here's an opportunity, an alternate experience that puts that all together.
One of the things that really made a difference was the institution of satellite clubs, because it gave us the ability to say to people who were interested, you can do this without having to commit to our Rotary Club. You can do it in your own way. So in fact, most of our growth came because we added a satellite club. The reason we have a satellite club is the other piece, which is that we decided to go for a global grant for working in our community in Chinatown. We knew that they were going to need a lot of help, and we also wanted to think about doing a global project at home. We had a plan that came under economic community development, which was to help the businesses stay open and to help them pivot if they needed to a different business model. Project isn't really finished yet because we still have some money, which is because so many of the things we had budgeted for, people ended up giving to us. The outcome of all this is that by doing that global project and getting ourselves out of there in the community so that the business community really did know who Rotary was and what we did, it gave us validity, and it made people think, well, this is an organization that I want to participate with. And so when we said we would invite the people in the businesses to come to our meetings and to hear things we did. And when we said to them, why don't you consider becoming Rotarians? And they said, well, first of all, many of us don't speak English. And secondly, it's hard to come to a meeting on a regular basis. We said, well, you all can form a satellite club. And they did. And they speak Cantonese when they're by themselves. And they frequently come to our meetings. And of course, we go to their meetings, and we're doing projects together, and we're doing dinners together and fundraising events together. Our hope is, we say to them, you know, your goal, your charge is to get enough other people interested to spin off and be a separate club. They were like an infusion of energy and fresh blood into our club. I mean, they just they come with so much enthusiasm that it's made all of us a little more enthusiastic.
So the path to success, and we've talked about it. So at this point in time, we will go into breakouts, and Thiva, I think we'll go into the breakouts and then come back at 7:30. So from now until 7:30, that should work. Okay. And in the breakout sessions, sort of think about what are the key takeaways as shared by the past presidents. What are those 5 key areas? And consider how the attributes of clubs that demonstrated significant growth and how that relates to your own club. So both the positives and the areas to work on. And how will you translate this to fit your club's own unique situation? And again, consider what your membership data is telling you about your club's strengths and your opportunities for growth, etc. So 2 things, the key takeaways from the past presidents, and then basically how does this translate to your club, your membership data, and the beginning of a membership plan. And if we were in person and we might start working on that. But I think it's really important, and I know I always felt like working with the team and the opportunity to work with the rest of your leadership team at the club to develop those goals, the membership goal, and then the actions to meet those goals. So I think Keith is going to work his magic, and we'll go into breakout rooms. And facilitator, when we come back, one person from each breakout room will please just one salient point from the conversation. And I know there's going to be a lot of conversations and a lot of input from different presidents-elect and different clubs. There'll be just one salient point per breakout room to share as part of the takeaway from the discussion.
Okay. Yeah, so what I did is created 8 breakout rooms, and I have assigned 2 areas in each breakout room, and I'll be pasting which club belongs to each areas in case you guys are not sure. So please look at the chat room. So area 1 and 2, I have listed the club names. If you guys are part of that, part of the club, president-elects or AGs for the club, please. I haven't opened the all rooms yet, so just give me a few minutes, but I'm going to post all the clubs within each areas so that you can decide which breakout room was allocated for you. Is everyone able to see the breakout rooms and the clubs that belong to it in the chat?
Steve, where is the number that tells us which breakout room?
The area 11 and 12, the top title.
Yeah.
There's area 1 and 2 breakout room, area 3 and 4 breakout room. So look for that specific breakout room.
Perfect. Thank you.
I don't see Topico Rotary.
There's no number of the breakout room.
No, it has the title that says area 13 and 14, area 15 and 16 like this. So you just have to look for that specific breakout room.
So where do you have Woodbridge?
All right, so Woodbridge is
Virginia, while we're waiting for everybody to come back, I was just telling people that if you'll remember in the videos, Catherine Hahn from Stratford, the Stratford Club, she will be your classmate.
Oh, all right. Okay.
7090.
Yes, I'm starting to bump into lots of people.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
And Virginia, were you on yet when I said that another classmate of yours will be Steve Wilkinson?
no, I didn't. I wasn't. So, oh, good.
No, he's he's 70 or 70. You're 70. He's 7010. So
Okay.
he's our DGND. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Thanks for sticking around and giving us your attention. What I'd like to do is just quickly, emphasis on the word quickly, go around the room and give us an observation that stuck out from your particular group, and I'll just do it in numerical order. And I am saying quickly because we want to respect people's need to get off to the next meeting. So anybody from excuse me, areas 1 and 2.
Hi, I'm Leanne from Sterling, and our group, a lot of our discussion was around age, and we kind of came up with the idea to bring forward was that you really need to mix the ages together. You need to mix your older club members and your younger club members together, and the traditional ideas with the new ideas, and meld everything together to make it more unified and meet everybody's ideas of what's going on.
Lovely, thank you very much. Areas 3 and 4.
We didn't talk about who was going to talk. I think Teresa should.
Go ahead,
No, you
Rhonda.
just did.
I think Teresa should.
Rhonda, go ahead. You got it.
Teresa, go for it.
Okay, so we discussed definitely that leadership is having a strong leader. Being visible in the community was important, and We discussed times and making sure that we, between all the members, but young and old and new members and long-standing members, that we came to an agreement with times. Having a media person, somebody that would post things and being able to share the good that Rotary does was important. What else is there? Is anything I'm missing, Rhonda?
Exit conversations.
Yes, brilliant. Having exit conversations with members that were leaving, to sit down and say, how did we, what can we learn as a club to make sure that we don't make the same mistakes again. I mean, that's a fantastic idea. And then also to have exit conversations with new members to go, what do you want to gain out of the club? How can we better support you as a new member? Were great suggestions so I'll definitely be using those myself. So, yeah.
Thank you very much. I'm going to move on quickly. 5 and 6, area 5 and 6.
Yeah, Doug, we had good discussion. Keep it short. We came up with one sentence to summarize it. Fellowship events with new members, highly visible in the community.
Okay, you can do the next presentation. Okay, thank you. Area 7 and 8.
So our group talked about all 5 of those areas, or the attributes. And the key one that really stood out of our discussion was community presence and increasing community presence to attract new members. And we talked a little bit about using all members as a membership committee to draw in new members.
Lovely, thank you very much. Area 9 and 10.
What they all said. No, seriously, setting specific goals. I think Paige mentioned making the entire club accountable, making sure we ask people, because at my club, I know we do not do a good job of asking people. We're pretty poor at that. Someone mentioned doing community projects, and that goes along with high visibility and telling people what we're doing. Again, we're very poor at that in general.
Excellent, thank you very much. 11 and 12.
I would say we talked about the importance of hands-on, both fundraising and community work. That's been difficult since COVID, but the one most successful one that we've continued at Toronto Skyline, for instance, is the serving meals at the Fort York Food Bank one Sunday a month. So that brings people together in service, and I think that's, throughout my history with the club, that's been the most important element to moving ahead, and we're really suffering when it's been missing, except for that one thing.
All right, thank you very much. Area 13 and 14.
Yes, we talked about a number of community engagements, such as engaging in collaborating with organizations in our areas, like fundraising in Woodbridge, we're fundraising for Women and Child Health section for the new Cartolucci Hospital. And in North York and Willowdale, they've been fundraising also for the North York General Hospital. And we talk about fun things that we can do with the community to raise the name of Rotary, such as a frog race. It's a frog race fund that we do in Woodbridge. We take on little frogs, put them in the river, and they swim, and people can win prizes. We also talked about using the type of meetings we have to engage membership. Instead of just one type of meeting, we want to organize Zoom meeting, in-person, and then even with the in-person, we can give opportunities for members to Zoom in and be part of the meeting. We think that this is a way to go forward. in Rotary if we want to engage everyone. We also thought of creating other clubs, such as growing the Interact Club, Rotary Club, because these are going to become the Rotarians of the future. And we had a very good discussion. We can play golf, make sure we play golf together, but use it also to bring the name of the Rotary to the public, raise funds for the public, and do good to the Rotary world.
Thank you very much. Last but not least, Area 15 and 16.
So our group really talked about retention and engagement. That was a big thing. And to our last speaker, we're trying to figure out how we address the old with the new, and how older members want to get back to in-person meetings and newer members want to kind of stay on Zoom because they can't afford the time to be away from their desks for more than an hour or 2 hours. So all of our groups were struggling on how we address that moving forward. So that was one thing that we talked about that we need to bring forth, and we're all trying to do surveys and such to get engagement from the members and understand what their needs are moving forward. The other thing we did talk about was social engagement. To make it fun, there's got to be things that we can do. And I know one of the clubs is actually doing quarterly social events, and our club is also looking at that as well. But one of the things we came out of that was, why can't you do that with other clubs? So one of the suggestions was go to the zoo, and instead of being one club doing that, why not have 3 or 4 clubs doing it, all wearing your Rotary shirts and going to the zoo or somewhere public to bring Rotary to the community at large around you. So those are the couple things we talked about.
Lovely, thank you very much. Well, as you can see, a lot of really great ideas generated from the conversations, and we don't have a whole lot of time. I did want to make one quick observation. One piece of feedback that we've been getting from people is that a lot of people have been asking for more information on leadership. And so we have started to think about whether or not there's some things that we can do on that, just in terms of developing and enhancing people's leadership skills. But I want to make just one last comment. And, it's kind of sounds like a hokey thing to say, but it really is absolutely true. For those of you stepping into the job of being a club president, thank you very much for stepping forward. And I can guarantee you that there may be a few minutes where you wonder why you did do that, but this really is an opportunity for you, and it does provide an opportunity for you to do service to your fellow members and to your club. So thank you for that, and thank you for participating.
Okay, so Joseph, if there's nothing else, Sue and Doug, I'm going to ask Joseph to thank our presenters tonight.
Yes, Sue and Doug, thank you for this evening. You have quite a bit packed in that evening. Membership, there's quite a bit of thinking behind it, and in a couple of weeks we all have our plans to put in motion and what's going to come in the next year. But I guess what I'm going to try to remember from you, Susan, is that strong leadership, clear goals, active in the community, active engagement, and we need to show it to everybody. So once again, thank you for being here tonight and speaking to our 22-23 NAG's president-elects. We have made a $200 donation for each one of you to the Rotary Foundation. So thank you for coming tonight. And everyone, would you please join me to to thank Susan and Doug for being our speakers, and let's give them a big hand. Over to you, Beth. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's awesome. It's amazing. Thank you.
So Susan and Doug, I will just need your contact information so that our district treasurer can forward the donation to TRF Canada in your respective names. So if you can just send that, coordinate it and send that to me, that'd be great. Doug, just to pick up on your comment about leadership, that was the focus of our first session when we met last week. We had Valerie Wafer, our IVP Valerie. She came and spoke to our president-elects and talked about her personal reflections being club president. when that was in the early 2000s, I think 2004 or 5, she said. So she started off our session last week, and then I did about an hour's worth of presentation on leadership skills, and we talked about leaders in Rotary and what makes strong leaders and what makes strong leaders stand out versus the weaker leaders. So we did have that focus. So yeah, thank you very much for your presentation tonight. And for everybody online, our next session is in 2 weeks' time, and we have District Governor-elect Sandy Amani from District 7080, and she's going to be doing a session with us on a vibrant club. So I wish you all well. Thank you for joining us tonight. And for those of you who are going to the Foundation Gala, you've got about 15 minutes to get there. Anyway, thanks very much, everybody, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.